Chinese President Xi Jinping gave a speech on China's commitment to fighting climate change at the virtual Leaders Summit on Climate hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden on April the 22nd and 23rd. President Xi emphasized China's commitment to green development using a people-centered approach. He also reiterated the commitment made last year that China will strive to peak its carbon dioxide emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. How significant are China's efforts and pledges, and how does it intend to fulfill its future commitments? I'm pleased to be joined in Beijing by Dr. Fang Li, Director of the World Resources Institute, China. Dr. Fang, welcome to The Point. Now, President Xi emphasized that China will strive to peak carbon dioxide emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. But at the same time, China's reliance and use of coal keeps going up. So how exactly does China intend to achieve those goals, given its population and its reliance on coal energy for its economic growth?
Hi, Sing. Very nice to meet you. And to be the chief representative of the China office of World Resources Institute in China, the most frequent question I've been asked is how China can achieve that target. The new pledge, that is an ambitious pledge, since it's used the shortest time or shorter than most of the developed countries from peaking to neutrality. If we review that the development of the China economy in the past 4 decades, we can find that China is really unique to achieve the target. China is really good at making the master plan and break out the master plan into stages and also reallocate the task to the local level and set up the local level competition. We can see the successful story in terms of economic development. So can this harness in carbon peaking and carbon neutrality? That is a very good story we can learn from the past. And the local competition, as our perspective, can encourage the local innovations, and also through systematic or the designed pilot can find the new ways or measures, and successful experiences can scale up in the national level. So that is a really impressive. And beside of that, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You wanted to add something.
Yeah, beside of that, China is really unique, have one organization called NDRC, National Development Reform Committee. The daily work or the main task of that organization is think about the reform. So reform is always on the road of the whole process of the development of the China. So that is a really unique of the world. And China is in the position that can play more important role in carbon neutrality, since so far till now, there's no any country achieve the target of carbon neutrality. So it's a systematic change. China can have a chance in this process.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about what President Xi said, that China will strictly limit the increase in coal consumption and start phasing it down from 2026. So basically, over the next couple of years, the use of coal will be strictly limited, but it will still be increasing, and China only start phasing it down from 2026, basically from the next five-year plan number 15. However, according to the International Energy Agency, coal demand is on course to rise in 2021 by 4.5%, with China leading the 80% of growth worldwide. Basically, China is projected to account about 50% of global demand in coal demand. So why does China not start phasing it down earlier?
At the shifting the economy or shifting the whole system from high carbon intensity economy to green and lower carbon intensity economy. It's a need time. WRI, as one of the think tank and do tank, we take over not only the pure environment issue, we also look after the just transition, think about the social issues. When the steps go so fast, how about the staff or employment in the coal sector, the whole supply chain? And the number of the employment in coal sectors is around 2.7 million. So that is a huge number. And the other, if we look at the other part, the grid transition of the grid can accept the more renewable energy. It's a need time to readjust the grid, and also the renewable energy can fit in the grid. It's also needed time. We look at the whole plan. So President Xi Jinping mentioned about in the 14th five-year plan, limited the consumption of the coal. That is a very positive signal. That is a burn the curve of the consumption and emission to the stage of the very flat, and then turn it down. That is so. As our understanding, that is in 14th five-year plan, just control or limit the consumption of coal, and also in the 15th five-year plan, that is phase down the coal consumption. So that is a step by step achieve the target.
Yeah, help people understand the five-year plans, because we talk about the five-year plans, the 14th and the 15th, but for people who are not familiar with what these five-year plans mean for China's future, help us understand that and what it means in global climate change terms.
Yeah, in terms of the global climate change, there's a two-phase target. One is till 2030 that reduce 50% of the emission, total emission of global. Until the middle of this century, that is 2050, it should be reduced down to the net zero. And in China, just like the beginning I mentioned, that China is really good at break down the long-term target into stages. So as our understanding, that every 5 years plan will match into the long-term strategy. And China will also have the long-term strategy in 2035 and 2050.
Some have also doubted if China can really kick its coal addiction to achieve its 2060 carbon neutral goal. What's your take on this?
So you mean China or the world?
There are some critics who say China can't really get rid of its reliance on coal consumption.
In terms of the resources, 80% of the emission from the coal consumption, and China's rely on the coal as an energy, as a key energy. But consider of the climate change and also the development of the technology in renewable energies such as the solar panel and wind power, China has a chance to have the energy revolution. In Chinese, we call it full revolution in energy consumption, energy supply, energy generation, and also energy transformation. So that is a full energy revolution. If we translate it into Western narrative, it's kind of the systematic change. In China, we use the revolution, but in Western part, we usually use the systematic change.
In your speech on April the 23rd, you mentioned to achieve carbon neutrality is not an incremental process, but a systematic change in society. Taking systemic changes into consideration, we believe that institutional cooperation should be the main focus of cooperation among major emitters or economies such as China, the US, and Europe. What do you mean by institutional cooperation, and how to conduct this kind of cooperation among countries such as China and the United States?
That's really a good question. In the previous decades, China, US, and EU has a lot of cooperation in economy, technology, human resources exchange. However, during recent years, there's more noise among those big entities or big countries. And how about the future system? If I look at the world, we think that the global international economy has some conflict with the kind of the supply chain. If we look at the things with the supply chains angle, that's the part of the maybe the kind of the key for the solving the problem. And from the cooperation to the constructive competition, that means to set up the common goals, and also under that common goals to have the game, just like the football game, you need to have the rules, then the games can start. So that is a systematic change in carbon neutrality. That is not only think about the production side, but also consumption side. So from the supply chain, it's a linked word from producer and consumer. And we need a new mechanism, a new systematic thinking about how to achieve the carbon neutrality.
You said before also that nobody achieved carbon neutrality. Basically, we don't know how life is, if we're really carbon neutral. So China's exploration, you said, that could be an opportunity for the world. What do you mean by that?
First, China is a big emitter of the carbon, and that is a very important. If China can achieve the target, that means that China, 28% of emission can be released. And second, especially after Xi Jinping's speech recently, that the new impressive information is given by the world, that is on non-CO2 emission reduction. According to WR's research, non-CO2, it takes almost 16% of the total greenhouse gas emission of the China. And if you look at the whole emission of non-CO2 in China, it's as big as the whole greenhouse gas emission of Japan or Brazil. So the amount is great, and China is getting to take actions on that. That is a very strong signal to the world.
Wow, it's been fascinating. I mean, some of the things I also learned for the first time, and it definitely will take a lot of determination, a lot of will, and a lot of action, not just on the country, the governments, but also on every consumer as well. Many thanks to Dr. Fang Li, Director of World Resources Institute, China. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Download the application called CGTN to watch the show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.